Hello and welcome to a new video for Unity tutorial. Today we are introducing the Unity editor. To do that, let's open up the project we created, the sample project. I call mine tutorial, or just create a new one if you feel like. This is a blank project, it's exactly as we created it. And this is Unity. This is the Unity editor. So in here we are going to create our game, of course, but first let's examine what we have available to us in order to create our game. First, I'm gonna tell you that this is composed of several windows. So we have here the window scene, which is a tab, but then we have the profiler, the animator, the asset store here. You may not have exactly like mine, so that's okay, but at least you have the scene in the game and the inspector, the project here, down here, the hierarchy, but it's okay if you don't have exactly this, and I'm gonna explain to you why. Because this is very versatile, and it's up to you to decide where to put things. So as these are windows, you can just drag them wherever you want. So let's pick up the game window, and I'm gonna drag it, and I can snap it here, I can snap it here, 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 or just here, and it snaps out of Unity itself. It just becomes its own window, but then we can put it back in and drag this. We can do whatever we want with these windows. But we also have some preset layouts in the top right corner, and we have the 2x3, which is this one. We have the 4 split, which is this one. I don't think that's very useful. We have the default one, we have the tall, and we have the wide. This is a matter of personal preferences, and you can decide whether to use one or the other. The one that makes more sense to me is this one, and I'm going to explain why. So down here we have the hierarchy, which I'm going to explain in a second. We have the project here, we have the inspector on the side, and we have a large scene view. And also we can press the tab here of the game tab, and we have the large game view as well. And this is particularly useful because our game will be played in a large screen. So if we want to test or see anything, we need a large screen to emulate that. I think it makes sense. This is my personal opinion. Okay, so if you want to use another one, you can go ahead and do so. Sometimes I even drag the game here and I use the layout like this, but it's totally fine if you use another one. So now let's explain what are these windows and what are they useful for. So first of all, we have the scene window, this little window right here, and in the scene window or scene view is where we see everything in a 3D space, of course. Everything that is in our game or in our scene in this particular example. First of all, let me explain what are scenes. A scene for Unity is like a level. When you think of scenes, think of levels or maps. So let's say you are playing Super Mario and you have the first level. In Unity, that's the first scene. Of course, it's not directly the first scene because we can use scenes for main menus as well. So the main menu would be the first scene, and the first level will be the second scene. Okay? And so here we can navigate in our world. So I'm pressing the middle mouse button, the mouse wheel, and I'm doing this, which does this effect of camera movement. We have a virtual camera that can roam around the world, and we can inspect anything in our level. So as we can see here, the default scene for Unity is a camera, and which is the eyes of our player, okay, and a light, which is our sun. So if we delete this, the scene entire becomes darker, of course. So let's just undo that. And if we delete the camera, we can't. You can see that in the game view, the display one, there's no cameras rendering, so there are no eyes. So we are essentially blind. So let's undo that as well. And this is our scene view. So the basic controls here are simple. So you can right click and you can look around in the same spot you are, okay. You can use the mouse wheel to pan around, okay. The left click is used to select objects. So if I click here, I select this object. If I click here, I select the sun. But I can also drag and do a rectangle and select multiple objects. That's fine too. So also another example is clicking Alt, and you can with Alt and left click you can do a sort of orbit movement. So this is the Alt plus mouse left click, okay. So if we do Alt right click, we do a zoom out, and if we go to the right, we do a zoom in. That's also useful. You can also use the mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. I've used more the mouse wheel than the Alt right click, but it's up to you to use one another. So remember, the right click only does this, but Alt plus left does this. So it's different, okay. So this one, you are centering your attention to a middle point, so not necessarily anything right now, but you are doing orbital movement around a point, and in this one you are the center and you are looking to anything specific. So there's our sun. Of course you may think, wait, but our sun is here, how can it be right there? Well, it's this is just the representation of the object itself, but it creates that ball of light, and let's call it light right there, and this object affects that object right there. So this is the basics of the scene and what it means. So on this side we have the game view, and the game view is exactly as it says, it's our game. It's exactly what the player will see when playing, and we can actually use this to test our game without having to build the application, the executable file and all that. That takes time. So we can just press play and we can play. We are playing right now our game. So basically our game is just a horizon view simulator of some kind, but that's okay. We are going to change this a lot, and we are going to add some interactivity to it, so don't worry. So let's just click play again, and this is basically it. The game view, it's so that we can view what's happening in our game as the player would. On the right side we have the inspector, and again I say right side because it's my layout, but if you are using another layout, your inspector can be on the other side, so that's fine. But the inspector window is like the name says, an inspector. We can inspect our objects and change variables and properties, like as you can see I have the light selected, and we have all these properties. We have the type, the color of the light, that's very important, the intensity. We have all these options to play around. We also have the position, the rotation and the scale, which I'm going to explain later, don't worry. But the inspector is where we can just change variables, change properties in the go, so without touching any code or any of that, okay? In the future we'll introduce it more in more detail. So in the bottom here, which again can be your bottom or not, we have the hierarchy window, which is basically a scene view, but in a form of list. So here we have all the list of all the objects in our scene. Okay, so right now we just have main camera and the directional light, which is our sun, but in the future we'll have our player here, our enemies, our world objects like the floor and all that. So this is our scene in list mode. Okay, so every object represented here is here in list view. Okay, so we can also select here and it gets selected here, so that's pretty useful. And finally we have the project window, which is basically our Windows Explorer or Mac Finder. It shows our folder, our project folder, and all the files included in our project. So for now we just have the assets is the root, by the way, the root of this folder, but we just have this folder called scenes, and we have a sample scene, which is this one, and we of course can create new scenes, and we'll do so in the future, but for now we just have this one. We can also right click here and create stuff, but we are going to do that in a later video. This is just to introduce you to the Unity editor. For now we are just looking at the windows, but as we move along with the tutorials, we are going to introduce more and more, like the components here, the game objects, the assets. We are going to talk about this. We are going to talk about everything about Unity. Yeah, basically. I got a little mixed words there, but that's okay. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next video.